And one. All right, we are officially live. This is the Weekly Jargon. I'm Abel Perez.
Jose Rodriguez.
Rohi Zachariah.
And fellas, another beautiful week here. Daylight savings is upon us, and so get a little bit more sunlight there at the tail end of our day. But the mornings have been a challenge for me. I'm used to being waking up by the sun around like 5:30, and it's not hitting till like 6:45 right now, and it's been a little bit brutal. So anyway, welcome back, fellas. How things been?
Well, I mean, the fact that we're starting to get more sun after this last week or so, I think we experienced some rain.
Yeah.
And chilly temperatures as well. I think we had almost a freeze that came about here. But now, looks like the sun right behind you, you're starting to see the sunlight. Yeah. We're starting to get up in the high 60s, maybe low 70s. Hopefully we get that going.
Yeah, this weekend I was actually a little hot at some points. You know, it was kind of interesting. So
yeah, they had it sounds like a late snow season. I was able to go up in the mountains this last Saturday, and it sounds like the snow level came down. And then we went to REI on Sunday, and snow rentals they're sold out. So
wow.
Big boom right now going on there.
Everybody's trying to get the last minute in. I guess that's a good combo, right? Where you still have sun and snow, so it's kind of it's a nice it's skiing in California, basically, right? You get the best of both worlds.
Not being a skier or that much of a snow guy, what is a season for skiing? When does it start and when does it end?
It depends. I mean, so there's I guess two ideas. They can make the fake snow. The problem with that is it turns to ice, and skiing or snowboarding on ice is terrible. It hurts. It's not fun. So when you get that fresh snow, that fluffy, that's like the perfect. That's like what you want.
So after a storm like we just saw, where now it's just nice and fluffy and powdery.
Yeah. And that can go up until April maybe? Or
as long as the temperatures stay cold during the night, they'll continue to still make the artificial snow in a sense. But it's really just about like that. As it melts and freezes, it's going to compact and turn more and more into ice, and it'll still be there, but it's just not as fun.
Yeah. So. I visited some of these ski resorts, but I've never really put some skis on. And I figured, as I was getting older, I said, I got to try this before I hit a certain age, right? Before my knees can't handle the downhill slope or anything like that.
The bunny hills you can
handle. I'd love to try that. Reaching 50. I say that often. I think I'm reaching 50.
You've been saying that a lot more.
Quite often.
I'm 50 now.
But I still would love to get out there and maybe put on some skis and start off in the junior level, maybe the beginner level, and move my way up.
Diamonds.
Move my way up to maybe not so advanced, but maybe somewhere in the middle.
Well, it's just like anything, you give it a shot, and you get a hang of it, and you just kind of you're gonna want that extra adrenaline go up on the Demon's Mountain or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 50, Jose. We're gonna start calling you 50 Cent.
That's right, 50 cent. That's all it is.
50 pesos.
50 pesos. That's right.
Well, hey guys, a lot of headlines making the news lately. Everything from national politics, and I think I actually named this. This segment today, the art of negotiation, right? And so one thing that we've seen with with Donald Trump as before he was a president is his self-proclaimed, and I guess he's been known to be a negotiator, and I can negotiate with these guys, I can negotiate with these guys, and we saw Ukraine President Zelensky come down to the Oval Office, and there was some public negotiations going on. Do you guys get a chance to catch that stuff?
I did. It was I would say comical. It's I guess the theatrical is the real best way to say it, but it's kind of sad because you would think that there still be some kind of level of respect in the public's eye.
Right.
Do that behind closed doors, but
I think it's like anything. I think you use the perfect term right now, behind closed doors, right? I was gonna get real inappropriate right now, but it's like some of these things, like these type of conversations, right, I think are best kept behind closed doors. Sometimes, I mean, even as you guys are elected officials here locally, and we all know that, at the end of the day, you're just individuals, average community members that, put your shoes on just the way everybody else does, but you're held to a higher standard, and you fall under scrutiny in the public eye for any little thing that you might do or say, and there has to be that understanding, right? And so while some may say, well, I like that Trump's transparent and that's the type of leader we need, it leaves himself open for everybody to say, wow, that's how our leader's talking to other leaders, no respect, and things like that. When I saw that, I thought, wow, yeah, this is how conversations happen behind closed doors. When the cameras aren't rolling and it's just a one-on-one. We'd like to think that they're sipping tea with the pinkies up and talking in the most perfect English or whatever language they're speaking, and the most perfect grammar, and just really just being strategic and giving each other that death stare, right? And it's just like this wrestling of like educated words. But I think the reality is a lot of these conversations, they probably go down like that, where it's like, kind of these little jabs here and there. Nah, come on, But then I think historically, they've been able to, compose themselves, say, okay, let's agree because we got cameras outside. What are we gonna say? What's gonna be the approach, right?
And just to chime in on that, the Zelensky ordeal, right? I mean, I don't think there's been a time where he's come with the suit, right? And I thought that was kind of off the wall, right? You throw something like that. And again, what kind of respect do you have for world leaders, right? When you come and visit this country that you've been aiding them. And now it's just like he said, a spectacle. Now you're going to try to humiliate instead of having these negotiations done in a professional manner. It seems like all this swarm of people were just against him there. And I mean, I get it. I mean, look, there's a war that we're involved in through funding of some type of, whether it's weapons, whether it's loans or whatever the case may be. But now you want to take that away and say, well, let's negotiate. What's in it for who? Is it for the American people? Or is it for people that have interest in their minerals, right? Is it for you and I? Do we benefit in somehow? Do we get cheaper products? I mean, there's tariffs going on. So, I mean, if it was laid out to where it says, it's going to trickle down to where you see a cheaper iPhone now, instead of $1,000, you're going to get it for $400. Wow. Okay, then that makes sense. But if you're gonna do that, again, no benefit to you and I, and that iPhone goes up to $1,500, then who is benefiting from that? I mean, we're going to support it because we are, we're citizens of the U.S. and we want to be very patriotic. But at the same time, I mean, was that necessary?
No.
I didn't think it had to go down that way. And I don't. To this, I mean, and look what's happening. It's not just with Zelensky now. Other countries are starting to feel the same way. Canada now is coming on the media now, stating how they're going to fight back and push back. I think they pulled out all the bourbon that they sell out there, a lot of the alcohol.
Took it off the shelves.
So,
all the Tennessee whiskey's gone.
Now, was it meant to stir up and rock the boat a little bit? Maybe that is something that's good here, to wake up people and say, hey, where are we at now? I mean, we're going into this century now, and where are we as far as, are we the leading power or are we falling behind? And maybe by shaking things up, we can kind of, hey, let's find out where we stand in the geopolitical arena. And I think, I think it is necessary. But there's a lot of fear that goes out in these messages, right? There's a lot of fear that goes out because Americans want to feel like, yes, we're standing by our president. But at the same time, I mean, wait a minute, is that going to affect me somehow? With the price of milk, the price of eggs, the price of cars, the price of iPhones and what have you as a consumer, because that's what impacts me, right? You can say that you're not going to hit me with the overtime taxes, the tips, but at the end of the day, I still have to report them in my income. So I don't get hit with it now, I don't get withholdings on it, but at the end when I report my income, has that been spelled out?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good. I mean, it seems like it's the whole switcheroo, you know? It's like, it sounds very good and promising. But at the end of the day, when you come pay the piper still wants its money.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say this. I mean, I know you guys you're probably not watching the videos, but the last video I saw, and it had to do with like, it's showing Ukraine's offensive and the drone usage and stuff, I think was the saddest video I saw, because what it was showing was, you know, we for years now, for the length of this, it's been Ukraine in the defense. They're putting off Putin. It's they're just, that's all they're wanting to do is hold their territory. And now we're glorifying, and the people that are showing the videos are saying, they're showing basically these drones. There's a soldier on the ground. He's already wounded. He has nothing he can do. And literally the Ukrainian drone flyer is just like poking at him. And on one of them, he literally like rams it in his butt and blows him up. And the guy's like, look how amazing it is. Wow, look, they took out this soldier. And it's repeated over and over. So it's not like even Russia putting it out as saying like, look how bad this is. They're saying like, let's glorify the fact that Ukrainian soldiers are now using drones to take out wounded people on the field.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where like Zelensky coming in and, you know, asking for money and for support. It's support of what? Is it to become now on the offensive? Is it to go into Russia? Is it to start, because they have the power now. Obviously, they've gotten enough money and technology and drone warfare that they can go start offensing and pushing Russia back into their territory and going into their territory. But are we going to start saying now they're committing war crimes? Are we going to start really drawing the line and saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's not right anymore. You know, that's not happening. And I think that's where, like, I have the difficulty of saying, like, yes, we should already be in negotiations and we should be looking for peace. Now, the whole who pays for what, that's tradition. When you lose, you pay, you know. Now, in this case, it would technically be going to Russia and saying, hey, Russia, you owe us $300 billion or whatever to rebuild Ukraine because you've destroyed it. I don't know that we go to Ukraine and say, you owe us money. You know, that's not kind of usually how it works. But I mean, in every war, once you defeat the person, you go in and you tell them, all right, now you're going to pay us, you know, reparations for what you've done to our country. You know?
And, you know, history has taught us that with those reparations, you know, you begin to have this resentment. And, you know, you saw it from Germany early on when they lost their first war, right? They were paying reparations.
But look at Germany, look at Japan. Both countries that suffered, and they're one of the strongest.
Well, they're not strongest in the military capacity.
No.
Maybe the economy. But even now, Japan has faced stagnation for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And they haven't really recovered.
They need a war.
Now what they're thinking is they're starting to see these imperialistic advances from other countries. Mm-hmm. They want to have their own military. Yeah. And Germany, I'm assuming they probably want to go the same route because they lie in an area that has been for centuries. I mean, for thousands of years, it seems like that area has always been. I mean, there's been war.
It's been battlegrounds.
Battlegrounds. Whether it's we talk about World War I, the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, the Austrian Empire, all these empires. But there's always been war for the advancement of territory, the advancement of resources. And here you have Ukraine that sits on over 17 types of minerals that are needed to make batteries and different types of products, right? Now, you have sanctions that you placed on Russia, but it seems like those sanctions are being lifted now, slowly. I think this was one of the economic weapons that the U.S. has, is being able to put somebody on certain sanctions like that and really cripple their economy. Mm-hmm. But again, comes here and it says, hey, well, let's work something out. And that's the question that I ask. Who are you working things out for? Is it for the American interest or is it for your interest? Mm-hmm. Because if I had some type of mining operation that I own and I am sided with the right person, then my company will be on the winning end, because now I can take a huge amount of those raw materials and convert them into products that people need. But doesn't necessarily mean that it comes down to you at a cheaper rate. Yeah. And it seems like that's what's happening now, because now that you see yourself on the losing end, well, we funded you. I mean, it sounds like it sounds like a repeated cycle of things that we've seen in the past. I funded you some money. you can't pay your loan. I'm going to have to confiscate whatever you owe me in minerals.
But isn't that war? I mean, that's again that goes back to even like the kings and queens. It's I'm going to pay for your war, and then you're going to somehow give me my payment back.
But
I mean, that's
was
been
that
going
was
on.
that was that plan ever there to win the war? Is what I'm getting at. Was there ever a plan to win the war?
Well, I guess you could go back to the early 2000s war on Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Well, that same, it's very similar, right? We're going to go in there, we're going to
The oil.
go in there, be heroes, and we're going to. But now, who are we actually fighting? Or and it started becoming very unclear. Where it was just like, well, we just want military bases everywhere here in the Middle East.
Where was Afghanistan, if you remember? That was who the
Kuwait and all that. stuff.
Yeah.
it was Afghanistan who they really wanted to go after. Somehow it turned out to be Iraq.
Right. That's what I mean.
Iraq
That's what
was
I
hiding
mean. How
out
do you
there.
park? How do you park right?
Yeah. The weapons of mass destruction
Yeah.
they
The
couldn't
newbies.
find, but that was their premise to walk in, establish these pipelines, and establish a lot of contracts that created a lot of wealth for a lot of people. I mean, did that help us? Maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe it trickled down with the oil prices. Maybe it has. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
it helped Halliburton.
it
right?
sure did.
But I guess my confusion though today is to say, then why do we even have NATO? If NATO is this governing military, universal body of force, then why does Japan need a military? Why does anybody need? We have NATO that says, hey, these two people are somehow going at it. Go at it.
Let me
Like,
take a
it's-
stab at that. But see, after 1945, when the Americans became the leading power and their currency became the new world order, they set aside certain policies to try to make sure that the other world power, which was the USSR, did not gain that much territory on them. So NATO became the plan to try to combat that growth of the communist or red USSR. Well, guess what? That ended in 1990. They were defeated by an economic war of this weaponry, or we were building nuclear weapons up that they couldn't keep up. They didn't have the system that we had, like a capitalist system that allowed us to advance. So after their demise, then slowly you started seeing bases shut down because there was bases everywhere in the U.S. and high alert in case something happened. So that's been declining slowly, but NATO was created for that reason. It was that reason to ally with the U.S., benefit from the U.S. We'll have a global trade, globalization, and you'll be protected in the seas by our military. So that's no longer the case. We don't need that many bases out there anymore because they're no longer a threat. But now it seems to be a new threat. So NATO, has always been used as an ally to advance the U.S.'s ambitions to try to make sure that there's no threat against its.
I think you need to go watch some of these Ukraine videos because what is your feeling if you were to find out a lot of the people fighting that war were American soldiers? Because there is special forces that are embedded with those units that are fighting against Russia right now.
No, I don't disagree, but
do you say like we're already we're in this war? I mean, we're fighting that war.
Vietnam was no different. I think there wasn't really we just knew that, hey, was it China or somebody was providing arms to the North Vietnamese, and they were providing, a lot of different types of, communist ideas, socialist. Again, we don't have all the classified documents to see why we started there, but early on, I know that there was no interest for us to get in there. But again, you ask any veteran that's out there, he'll tell you, did we win the war? What did we do? We had to pull out because we no longer could continue to finance that war at that scale. And we weren't gaining any traction. So we had to pull out. Same thing happened with Afghanistan. I think they're there for purposes other than trying to win. You stall it long enough, you may create some economic. There's a lot of money made in war.
This one you kill all the aged men that can reproduce.
Well, look what's happening in Ukraine right now. They have I hate to use the word, but they have a shitload of women out there because they've lost a lot of men.
Yeah.
And they're advertising. I don't know if they're advertisement in that way, but this would be a way to say, hey, a lot of these women will. You'll have maybe for every man there'll be 4 to 5 women.
So you're saying the Mormons need to go to Ukraine?
I don't know, but it happens in war. Yeah. And here's the thing: whoever's losing the war, can they really afford to put out that kind of media? Or would someone else be willing to say, look what's happening out here. Side with us because Ukraine really belongs to us. They don't need to be sovereign. They need to be under us. And I mean, they're just fighting to have their economic life as well. But it seems like, I don't know that we have all the information on the geopolitical things that are taking place.
Some people will tell you that wars, especially the latest wars, have been more of a population control than anything else. Because look at what you just did to that population. For the next 10, 15 years, they're going to have a decline in babies, and now their populations are going to decline. Is that good for this world? Do we need a decline in population? There's a lot of people pushing that.
You failed to mention the traumatic experiences that these people have suffered, right?
Sure.
You talk about the people in Gaza. Look at them. I mean, they've been fighting that war for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
They've been their occupation of the Israel state. They've been. And I hate to use those terms because we may get sanctioned. Maybe they'll remove us from somewhere. But truthfully, you look at that, and these folks have fought, just to try to preserve their identity. But it seems like there's a large war, and sometimes people don't see how much they've gained over the last years. It's like you're pushing people out. You're pushing people out. What kind of what do you expect these people to feel? The resentment. Do you expect them to just say, you know what, we give up. We're going to just convert. You create like this hatred, and there's no peace in there. I mean, no matter how you call it. Remember back when Bill Clinton tried to get Asher Arafat, and at the time the prime minister, I don't know if it was the same prime minister at the time, been around for a long time. But anyways, that seemed to work for just a little bit. And then we're back here with Gaza now becoming the Mar-a-Lago deal. I mean, those things. You don't look at it as in the human. I mean, maybe it's me, and maybe you fail the ideology to think that maybe the sympathetic part of us being humans isn't really there. We just make that up. And truthfully, we're just possessive by nature, and that's how we are. Violence isn't within our nature, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like that's how we operate.
Everything documented in human history has said that we've been territorial. Command and conquer, and it's been going on forever.
So then why should we even live by the idea of this ideology? Is it just to keep us at peace, keep you at bay? Because this ideology of being a perfect world, a communal, social world where we can have everything equal, I mean, is that even true? Is that even worth fighting for? Because a lot of people give up their lives just thinking that. And sometimes when you strip us down with a bare core, maybe that's what it is. We're just very territorial, possessive by nature, and he who has the most resources survives.
Yeah.
I have a cousin who's went into the Navy SEAL program. He was a Navy SEAL. He was part of a SEAL team during the Bin Laden raid, right? Not that SEAL team that did that, but he was very much so active during that time, And he would always say, "I can't say what's going on." He's because it's I can't. But there's something going on every day. We're in somebody's business every single day, and it's because of those actions that we get to sleep at night. We get to have the pursuit of the American dream here, nice and cozy. And so. As the world starts becoming smaller, thanks to, media and, access to everything right here on your phones, we start to kind of get that sentiment in it, right? I think every day we ask, are our expectations too high? Well, I think the average people, I think you have to have a society where you're God-fearing and you have these moral values and you want peace, because there's a way to control people when they're like that, right? They're less likely to rise against, and overtake the government and be violent, right? You want to keep them, law-abiding, and so. I don't know. I think the propaganda has a lot to do with it, right? You kind of look at it what our media is doing now, even with the Zelensky visit, right? And you can almost see the different agendas being pushed. Like I started off, one saying, Trump's strong and he stands up, and Vance has his back, and like we're not going to let somebody come in here and disrespect us, right? And on the flip side, you have somebody saying, man, how can we put on this, circus parade on national TV and, see the world, or show the world that we're disrespectful to world leaders, and so there's these different spins on it. Want to move on to today. I heard, yesterday, between yesterday and today, they're talking about X being hacked, right? So there was X was shut down for some time yesterday, and so now they're saying that the IP address of the hacker was tracked back to Ukraine, right? So Rohi, you might have a little bit more insight being a tech guy, but here we're seeing, we're hearing Elon Musk say, yeah, the IP of this hacker is being tracked back to Ukraine, right? Is this, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe, right? Is this, part of the agenda to say, hey, look, Ukraine's trying to attack us and shut us down? Or is it, hey, Ukraine's actually, trying to retaliate, or somebody from Ukraine's trying to retaliate and interfere with, this corporation, this media outlet?
Well, to answer that, I'll tell you simply that anytime, especially in today's world, that they'll say an attack came because of the IP address, they can tell you it means that they know what they're talking about. Now, what they will tell you is when they find out the software, they can usually tell who it came from, because the software that they use, they spend millions upon millions of dollars to build that single program.
For that single task.
For that single task, they already can track, it came from Russia or China or whoever. So that would, if they came in and said like that, like, maybe in the some of the coding they were able to find something that, pertained to a certain Ukrainian hacker group, that would be a little more viable. When you say the attack came from inside Ukraine, nobody, unless they're in their...
Because I could tether my computer to a Ukraine IP address,
well, I mean,
right?
Any real person that knows anything, they're going to use a VPN, and as soon as you hit a VPN, I can be in Africa right now in 2 seconds, and so the attack looked like it came from Africa.
Yeah, when I traveled abroad, I remember using a VPN, and it was somewhere in England, London, somewhere else. I mean, because I was there, right? And I probably feel more comfortable using something in the Americas, and I left it the region there, and it was able to catch it. But it's funny that story is starting to come about, because there's similar stories that always come about, depending on what you want to shape from the media, right? I mean, the media is it's powerful, and I think that people understand that the communication piece of it, how you want to shape a certain story, is just by accusing. Mm-hmm. Just by accusing, there isn't any fact checks being done on it. It's just an accusation that someone is going to run with. Oh, shit, here we go. Mm-hmm. Ukraine's starting to spy on us. Not too long ago, Russia was hacking into our voting system, right? But we don't have an opportunity to really, I think we're too busy. Mm-hmm. I think we're kept entertained in our jobs and really to take on these geopolitical matters. That's why we have representatives, and we hope that they're doing a good job. A lot of times, they don't even know what the fuck's going on, man. I mean, excuse my language. I think a lot of them, I hate to say it in that fashion, but a lot of them, they're there fighting a different war. Mm-hmm. They're there trying to keep their seats. They're there trying to make sure that, hey, I get reelected. Mm-hmm. Some of them have to do it every 2 years. Some of them have to do it every 4 to 6 years. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on. We don't have all the facts, but to your point, I think you see that these hackers, I mean, that's a good story to sell to get the Americans to say, you know what? No, that's why we don't trust him.
Yeah.
He doesn't dress right. He doesn't have a suit. And he's hacking our systems, right? By the way, Elon Musk had offered them the Starlink internet when they were in crisis. It's funny. It's ironic how someone with that relationship is now on the other end being looked at as the villain, right? So it's kind of weird how things we forget about these things because they're not presented to us every single day. It's just the spinning of the media sometimes.
I think the underlying in the Americans is, we are desensitized to a lot, and I feel guilty about it, but when the Gaza Strip was being attacked and you had all these images like just right there on your phone, kids and women, non-soldiers just being, mutilated right there, dads carrying their babies and it was like, damn, how can this happen, And it's like you said, you go to work and you go to pick up your kids and you go watch the games and you look back up and you're like, wow, it's been a year already. Wow, it's been over a year already. And this has, been going on, these people's reality every single day for the last, year and a half now. And you wonder, man, that's kind of jacked up. We get, and it's almost, that feeling's almost dictated by the media. All of a sudden those images slow down on your phone. They're not being fed to you anymore. Now Ukraine's being fed to you. Now all of these other things are being fed to you, and so now that's important. But now we're talking about those things.
But they keep you entertained, because then soon after that happened, Christmas was around the corner, or maybe some other holiday,
right.
or the Super Bowl. And your focus should not be on that right now. Your focus needs to be here, where Black Friday is coming, and we need you to shop all you can. See, so it's kind of, and that, because you go on every day, you forget about it. For example, this thing just happened with Facebook and TikTok, right? I mean, everybody talks about it, but how is it that you can be out for a day, like, I'm going to ban it, but it's out for a day, and then somehow it's back? There had to be something going on there in the back end that we're not aware of. But again, people assume that, hey,
look over here.
Yeah.
And then
we're going to ban it.
Sneaking out the back.
But President Trump's going to bring it back.
Yeah.
We're going to extend it. I mean, you shut it down for 24 hours. Reminds me of when we have our maintenance. You won't be able to use the system here for the next 24 hours. We're going through a maintenance. Well, guess what? We just converted into we added or integrated some type of software there to help us become better at what we do, right?
Yeah.
How is that not different at that scale? I mean, think about it. And yet everything else is the same. So it's like, I think that if you banned it, you banned it. I mean, but if you...
That's not true. California banned straws, I think, how many years ago, and I still get my straw every time.
So, I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, is that kind of crazy? We didn't talk about it, maybe because it just happened so quick. Well, we didn't think that... everybody got their TikTok. It's
Everybody
like
is
you got your pacifier, and you're like, you know what, I'm good.
Well, can you download TikTok from the App Store now? Because
I don't even touch that
a bunch
stuff.
of people deleted it, and then it's no longer available in the app stores. But if you have it, you can access it. And so people were selling their phones for a couple $1,000s because, I have TikTok on my phone installed. Right?
Well, maybe that's what it was.
So-
I remember that with the game Flappy Bird.
Yeah, Flappy Birds. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
People are just crazy.
I know that people were talking about you got to go to Facebook and block this, block that, and you know. So I mean, it's crazy to think that can happen so quickly, and yet it just like we forgot about it.
Right.
Right? It's crazy. But again, that's what the
Well, and since we're on, media and censorship, and we started off. Did we start off talking about immigration? But you got immigration a big topic right now. Obviously,
It's always
right?
been a big topic.
But that's exactly my point. Is when I was a kid in elementary school, there was a walkout, for immigration. There, and then again when I was like in high school, there were, these protests going on. And then as in my 20s, there was, and so it seems like every maybe 6 to 10 years, it's the hot topic again, and you kind of got to wonder, well, what's happening during those 6 to 10 years, right? Why is that is it every time, a Republican takes office, or, I know Obama came under scrutiny for the way that immigration or immigrants were being, caged or housed during their deportation process, right? And it always kind of just seems like the media does a great job of spinning it, right in time, for whatever agenda that they may have going on, or whatever they want to amplify. But the reality is these are struggles that people face year round, day in, day out. Even though just because it hits the media every 6 to 10 years, there's people being deported every single day for the last 50 years, right? And so it's almost like, what if you're those people, those families who are dealing with, family members being deported, having to constantly, struggle, but then nobody's vouching for you. We're during those times where it's not a hot topic on the media, and nobody's, championing you and your family. How forgotten you must feel, how alone you must feel during those times. Right now, it's a time of like, let's rally together and fight and help each other and honor our immigrants and they're hardworking and all this stuff, right? But again, that desensitization comes, or that deflection, that the media likes to do and say, hey, look over here now. Now look over there. Who knows? How long is immigration and deportations, legal immigrants going to be a hot topic for? It's sad.
Well, I'm going to let my colleague here take a stab at it because I'm sure he's dying to say something there.
Well, we have 1% left on this iPad.
We'll make it quick. Or
This
you
thing does
want
not-
to table it till the
This
next
thing's
one?
not charging. Yeah, so, this is a 35-minute show. I think we're good right there. Any last minute?
Well,
topic?
I think you said it best. A lot of the times, I don't think we've had any good immigration reform since the 80s when President Reagan had offered the amnesty, which hasn't really been done, not even considered. I think DACA came about, if you recall. That was the deferred child arrivals. But I think that just gave some temporary status. And after that, that's somewhat of reform. And I know right now the country is they're bouncing the idea or juggling the idea of, hey, this whole thing with immigration that needs to stop. And I mean, I think everybody agrees that something has to be done, right? It's just that nobody's really done anything yet. And how they do it, the first thing they do is they blame the people that made it out this way, but they don't really look at the other inner workings of where's the demand coming from? Mm-hmm. Who's actually creating the demand for people to want to come out and seek? It's not like they put a paper out there, come to America, this is going to be the big deal. There's work. Mm-hmm. Somebody's offering work. Somebody's hiring them. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if you want to put a plug to it, you start there. The root cause of it is there. And I think people just find it easier to say it's these people and not necessarily it's these other people that are actually creating it.
I'll put my last words on that. If they were to treat it, unfortunately, I hate to use the context, but if they were to treat it like when we say assault weapons in California. California in the 90s put an assault weapon ban. They said you had mandatory registration period. You have to document it. You keep it, it's yours, whatever. But it also acknowledged the fact that we're not going to be accepting of any more. And I think that's the hardest part I have in that discussion is, if there was a policy, everybody that's in as of this date, you come in, you put your name in, and you're going to be somehow on the pathway to citizenship, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But the understanding would be everybody after that date would be under very harsh scrutiny to say you are now leaving. If that was there, I would be more accepting of it. But I think that's where we have the issue is every time we don't say this is the end all. We gave them the opportunity, we allowed more. And now we're back to the same thing. We want to extend it and give an opportunity again, but not to say there's going to be an end to it. We're just going to always be like, just encouraging it because don't worry, you come here, you hang out for another 10, 15 years, and there'll be another president that's going to be accepting of it.
Yeah. And if you go back to those years when Reagan was there, Reagan was trying to break unions down. And the only way to break unions down is to export your corporations out of the U.S. or bring in cheaper labor. Again, I'm not saying that was the intention of that amnesty. I don't want to ever bring that down, but there was a political climate going on at that time, an economic climate that required some political action, right? And if you go back and you study his Reaganomics or what he was really after, then you'll really uncover a lot of different things when it comes to what he had against these unions. He wasn't a union guy. And it's funny because he was an actor, right? He's part of a union guild.
When you look at things from that perspective, right, and you take what Rohi's concept of saying, let's put an end to it. I think if you were to combine those two, it's like you can't put an end to immigration because you would be putting an end to cheap labor, right? Who works the hardest? Who doesn't care about working conditions because they're better from where they came from? Who is appreciative of the wage that they get? It's the first generation immigrant, right? That first generation, which was like, my grandparents, they worked their ass off, right? But guess what? By the time the second generation came, it was like, hey, you can't treat me like that. Hey, I have rights. Hey, I need a fair wage, right? By the time third generation me, I'm hey, I'm entitled. I need fair. I need equalization. I need fair labor. And all of these things, right? I'll sue you, yeah. And so how do you replenish that? Well, you need more immigration. You need more first generation immigrants. And it's not just the Mexican population that are hardworking people. I mean, we saw this with with the beginning of America. Irish, the Italians,
Germans,
all of these, which we would now consider white folks, right? Irish, Italians, like you said, Germans. As they came over, they started at the bottom. They were, disgraced. They were the filth. They brought all the germs. They brought all the diseases, and they had to work these low-paying, bad condition jobs, and we embraced it, right? Well, it's like, okay, well, the Irish were here. Okay, cool. They did that, but now they're second, third generation, and they want more pay. Let's bring the Italians over, because they're going to work, and it's just been this huge reset. And now you, with the border just being to the south right there, you have a breeding pool of first generation immigrants. So it's like keep moving them in. We'll keep keep having cheap labor.
The program and is. There is that work program that brings people through with work visas on a temporary status to do that work. I mean, that program is already there, so I think you're working against your own program that is already in place. So.
That's a good point, but that happened in the 1940s, the Bracero program. Check this out. It's funny because history repeats itself. See, back when the railroad was completed, it happened to the Chinese Exclusion Act. You were having all these people rushing for the gold rush and coming in west. Well, guess what? Chinese with the cheap labor. But now, hey, we don't need you no more. It's time to get out. Okay? 1930s, early 1920s, Hoover presented the repatriation